This is a Connecting Point, the state we're in, Web Extra. I'm Jim Madigan, and we are joined by the candidates in the Democratic primary for Hampden District Attorney. Nobody else is running, so the primary on September 9th will decide who is Hampden County's top prosecutor for the next 4 years. The candidates are Shawn Allyn, Hal Etkin, Anthony Gulluni, and Brett Vottero. And gentlemen, again, we thank you for spending a little extra time with us. Let me ask you, and we'll start with Mr. Allyn first. The local population is becoming more and more diverse. We've got longstanding and vibrant Latino and African American communities throughout the area. We now see growing Asian population, Russian population. Just the area is becoming more and more diverse as our country is. What kind of outreach, if any, would you envision to all of these communities within our larger community to address crime that may often go unreported by people new to our country, maybe afraid of approaching authorities because of what their experiences were with authorities in their homelands? How do you deal with that?
One thing how you deal with it is each of those communities, you bring them into the district attorney's office. I don't mean bring them in to talk to them. You hire them. You make them part of the staff because you lead by example. And when you do that, they will help you connect. They will help the district attorney connect with their individual communities, because who else better than to do it than one of your own? And then they'll teach, because not everybody on this panel knows everything, and you learn. A good leader knows when to reach out to people, and they'll teach you, and they'll help you learn. But we do have to reach out to very diverse communities, and that's really what I'm all about. But it has to start with the DA's office. We need to do outreach and have a presence and have it be heard, and have the district attorney's office be heard in those individual communities. And that's not really happening right now.
Mr. Etkin.
Well, I agree that diversity is very, very important in the office to have the makeup of the employees reflect the county. I also think that the DA's office can also do things to make itself more accessible. We have a substantial Latino population in Hampden County, and what I don't understand, and one of my initiatives is, if you go to the district attorney's website, how come you can't press a button to make the information available in Spanish? How come when the district attorney has informational materials that they're not also in Spanish? How come during the business hours that there's not someone in the district attorney's office who can communicate in Spanish? But more importantly, to address the other groups in the community, I would insist in the most strongest terms that the employees are out there with community groups on a regular basis so that they can develop contacts, and the district attorney's office can have access to what's going on in these communities. It's imperative we do that.
Mr. Gulluni.
I agree. I think diversity is a very important aspect to opening up our office to other communities. But I think it's what's more important is having the door to the DA's office be a two-way door, where we're going out into the community, making ourselves available to all communities within the county. And second, we're allowing people to come in. We're an open door for folks. I think what's important to that with growing Hispanic populations in Hampden County is that we have folks in the DA's office that can communicate in people's native languages. That's a very important thing when someone needs services from the DA's office, that we're able to effectively communicate with them. I think also it's about the partnerships with the individuals and the community leaders in the community, so we've got standing relationships with the people involved in churches, involved in community centers, involved in neighborhood councils, and I've begun that work, so I'm confident that as district attorney those relationships will continue.
Mr. Vottero.
Well, we're certainly a diverse community, but if you look at the statistics, we remain one of the most highly segregated communities in the country. And that's really one of the problems that we have. We do not have enough interaction, professional, social, personal, among these different diverse groups. The DA's office has an important role to play. It needs to have a diverse staff. And there's staff there now that are bilingual, and they have publications in the DA's office now that are bilingual. And certainly that can be expanded. But you know, I've spent, for the last 30 years, all the time that I've been a lawyer, I've also volunteered with an organization that has as its mission to try to break down differences across cultures, give people an opportunity to form close personal friendships with people from other cultures. That's part of the problem that we have in our society and in our community. While we may be diverse, we're not doing enough to bring everyone to the table. And I think that has to be done. I think the district attorney's office does need to reflect the community. I think we need to have prosecutors that live in the communities that they're working to protect.
Thank you, sir. And next question, we'll start first with Mr. Etkin. Domestic violence, 95% of the time or more, it is men hurting women and or children. How do we address that situation?
It's probably one of the most serious law enforcement problems that we have. When I was at the police academy, I became a certified domestic violence instructor because it's important to kind of have an understanding of that. Education is important. I think the new law that just came out, though it has its limitations in the sense that it kind of restricts information to the press and in some ways may have the purpose of not allowing support groups to be able to have access or know about victims. It's at least a step in the right direction in terms of providing a cooling off period so that people who are arrested for domestic violence have to be held at the police department. It allows victims of domestic violence to take a leave from their employment if necessary. It provides educational mandates for schools and to provide for education as to this terrible thing. This is something that used to be not talked about, and the more that we bring this to focus, I think the more we'll have a healthier society.
Mr. Gulluni.
Domestic violence is one of the types of crimes that I think has the greatest impact on the foundation of our county and really reverberates beyond just the victim in the specific crime, because it affects the children involved in the relationship. It affects the ongoing relationship between the parties. So I think it's critical that we focus on these types of crimes in the DA's office. I commend the legislature and Governor Patrick just recently amending and changing some laws relative to domestic violence and giving prosecutors a tool in prosecuting for a specific crime called strangulation. Very often in cases before, we only could charge attempted murder or assault and battery. Now there's that sort of middle crime that is very serious and provides very serious penalties. So the legislature is going in the right direction, and we certainly need to follow on a focus on domestic violence cases, both in our educational aspects with our victim witness programs, but also in the swift and aggressive prosecution of those offenders committing crimes against women and children.
And Mr. Vottero.
Well, domestic violence is just one kind of the violent crimes against women that are a real issue. And I've worked on those from my very first case in the DA's office was a domestic violence homicide of a high school girlfriend by her boyfriend in West Springfield. I have 2 daughters, and I'm appalled at the idea that 1 in 5 college women are the victims of sexual assault. And the DA's office needs to be involved in those. So whether it's domestic violence or sexual assault, rape cases, I led the effort in the DA's office to use DNA to test old rape cases to solve them. And we solved a case that was 15 years old and made new law about the statute of limitations and really gave women peace of mind after decades that their rapist had been solved. And in the office as well, I left the office in 2008. I resigned because of a sexual harassment case in the office. And it was my view that while it was unintentional, the office was violating federal law. And I thought my oath of office required me to leave. So I am passionately dedicated to protecting women against violence and using every tool the law has to do that.
Mr. Allyn.
You got to understand what women are going through, and even before I became a lawyer, as I told you in our last segment, I was a social worker, and part of my job as a social worker was protecting women. I've actually brought women to safe houses. I've put them and their kids in my car, and I've driven them there. And the impact of domestic violence on a young child is astronomical on their development, and we really need to put support in place to have that domestic violence victim feel empowered to want to come forward, to want to testify. The new law does 3 good things. It now mandates in police curriculum. It's no longer discretionary that we'll have domestic violence training. There's a 6-hour delay in allowing bail, which you can be surprised when you've dealt with a domestic violence victim. that 6 hours, you can get a lot done with that, the woman and her children, to help her feel empowered. And it also, I've had so many women, after I've put them in shelters, leave, and I'd be like, why are you leaving now? We've got you in a safe place. I can't lose my job. I'm worried about my house. Now it mandates that employers pay those women for up to 15 days, which really can give you a 2-week period of time to network with their family, to help them have their family also help, because it has to be a community effort. They also amended the dangerousness statute. You can be held up to 120 days now. Similarly, it needs to be done for firearms as well, but it needs to be a tough, aggressive stance with domestic violence, and those perpetrators need to be prosecuted.
Candidates, thank you one and all for spending time with us. Thank you for taking the time to log on and joining us for this web exclusive on WGBY.org. Don't forget to vote September 9th.